You either use the internet for fun or you use the internet to grow. You're here to grow. Welcome to TRS Clips. There are these conspiracy theory oriented narratives online that Pakistan might be on the brink of a civil war. I don't know how true that is. But is it the same Pashtun versus Punjabi rivalry that's at the core of this thought? And is that even true? Is Pakistan actually at the brink of some sort of a civil war?
The short answer to that is civil war is too strong a word.
Okay.
Right? There is an insurgency in Balochistan. The problem with the Baloch is they have 44% of the land area of Pakistan, but about 5% of the population. They are not a critical mass. Like the Bengalis were East Pakistan, they were a critical mass. And again, there's the tribal system in Balochistan, so the tribes are, of course, now the educated middle class Baloch are getting a handle on the nationalist movement. So, but there is the fifth insurgency in Balochistan.
Okay.
The Sindhis too are not very comfortable with the Punjabi domination, the exploitation. But the real threat to Pakistan will ultimately come if the Pashtuns were to unite. Now, you have the Pashtun nationalist parties like the Awami National Party. You have the Pashtun Qawmili Awami Party, which is in Balochistan. Again, the British were very smart imperialists. Balochistan today, the northern portion of Balochistan is Pashtun. When they got that area from the Amir in Kabul, they treated it as a commissioner's province, but merged it with the Baloch tribal areas and called the whole thing as British Balochistan. Didn't merge it with the settled districts of Pashtuns. So even today, a lot of people get confused. How are the Pashtuns in Balochistan? It's a Baloch area. No, till Quetta and north of Quetta is actually a Pashtun area. So the Pashtuns are a critical mass. They have sort of imagination of Pashtunistan, their own area which they can govern, but they are divided, in tribal bases. Now even extreme Pashtun force in Afghanistan called the Taliban. And their methodology is not something which the Pashtuns of Pakistan really care about. But then you also have the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, if you heard of it, PTM, which are these young Pashtuns, civil rights activists who are protesting that we don't want to be treated as cannon fodder anymore for Pakistan's foreign policy objectives. This against the Soviets, who were the jihadis? They were all Pashtuns. They're the ones who died. War on terror, again, it was the Pashtuns. So there is this non-violent civil rights movement which harks back to some extent to Ghaffar Khan and his Khudai Khidmatgar. And they have a different conception of what the Pashtuns are. Then you have the Taliban who have not accepted the Durand line. They said it's a line which divides brothers. In some parts, they have uprooted the fence. And much to the annoyance of Pakistan, because they thought the Taliban would accept the Durand line and this international border will be settled once and for all.
Okay, so basically the line that we see on maps, on world maps, the line that divides Afghanistan and Pakistan, that's not the actual version of what's happening. That's what you're saying?
That is the Durand line. According to Pakistan, it is the international border. When they left, the British also said this is the international border. But legally, if you go down deep, again, I've done that in my book. If you want, I can digress to that. Pakistan knows that this is not the international border. Therefore, they are keen for the Taliban. Thrice in the 90s, they asked the Taliban, please recognize the Durand line. And the Taliban said, we can't do it. Even now, after the Taliban took over Kabul in August 21, they said, recognize the Durand line, and Taliban have flatly refused.
So the Indian perspective on Pakistani border disputes is just POK. We see a particular map of India and a particular map of Pakistan. They see a different version of Pakistan and a different version of India. We don't even think about the kind of issues they have with Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But there's actually issues on both their borders.
Yes.
Like both their neighboring countries don't accept the borders that Pakistan claims it has.
Yeah.
Now continue, sir. Would you like to expand on this or would you like to go back to the timeline? It's up to you.
No. So let's finish this
Sure.
Durand line thing. So after the Third Afghan War, there were two treaties, 1919 in Rawalpindi and 21 in the Treaty of Kabul. Now, that is a very interesting treaty. It talks about this Anglo... See, there is no treaty between Afghanistan and Pakistan post-47 on the border. The last treaty of 1921, it's called the Indo-Afghan border. So even today, the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan is called the Indo-Afghan border after the 1921 treaty. Now, the 21 treaty specified that after 3 years in existence, either of the two sides, that is the British India or Afghanistan, can rescind this treaty by giving 12 months' notice. In 1949, there was a Loya Jirga which was held by the Afghan, and they said we do away with all treaties, including the Durand Line, the Treaty of Gandamak and Rawalpindi, everything. We do away with all this. So as far as the Afghans are concerned, there is no Durand Line, there is no demarcated border. Pakistan knows this. Pakistan knows that legally there is no border because they have not even tried to re-establish it after 47. That after Pakistan came into existence, they could have negotiated with the Afghan government and said, this is demarcate the border. They didn't do it. And the Afghans, so the Loya Jirga said there is no border. No government in Afghanistan since 1949, whether it was the monarchy, whether it was the Muhammad Dawood, whether it was the PDPA or the Mujahideen or Taliban 1 or Taliban currently, has, or even Karzai or Ghani, they've said there is no border. We cannot accept the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Therefore, Pakistan is so keen. Therefore, they want a dependent, weak government in Kabul, which does not raise the issue of the Durand Line. And their entire foreign policy is geared towards keeping Afghanistan and Kabul weak and dependent on Pakistan. Now, the Taliban are a different kettle of fish. Pakistan had thought that these people would be grateful to us. 20 saal se we have supported them in the insurgency. Now, when they come into power, the first thing they will do is recognize the Durand Line. But the Taliban or the Pashtuns are beholden to nobody. They said, yes, thank you so much. Now, there's another concept of the Pashtuns, which is Watan. As far as the Pashtuns are concerned, or the Pashtun refugees who took refuge in Pakistan, they are in their own Watan, they are in their own homeland. Because this was the territories of Ahmad Shah Durrani. कि हम अपने वतन में हैं. We may be in Pakistan today. We are grateful to Pakistan, but ये वतन हमारा है. So, neither the Taliban especially, they will not accept the Durand Line. So for Pakistan, it's a big security challenge. So the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is the one in Pakistan, is now wanting to, the tribal district I talked about earlier has been merged with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They want it to be demerged and they want to establish their own writ in that. So Pakistan actually faces a pincer movement from the Pashtuns. The Taliban have not accepted the Durand Line, which challenges the sovereignty of Pakistan. And the TTP on this side of the Durand Line says, we want our own territory, we want our own area. And they have set up provinces, shadow governments called Vilayat in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and FATA, and even now in Balochistan and in Punjab. So it's a pincer movement that Pakistan faces. And if they don't handle it imaginatively, there's trouble brewing just under the surface. So to come back to your original question of a civil war, the problem I feel can happen from anywhere. But most likely it is the Pashtuns if they get their act together.
Okay. Wow. So it gets more intense.
So, it's called a polycrisis, where several crises come together in space and time, making any crisis far more serious than what the original crisis was.
New clips released at the same time that a podcast releases. This is TRS Clips. Make sure you subscribe.